Hi, Jeff with Practically Tactical, and I'm here with Dave Lawbert of Defensive Creations Gunsmithing. And I'm really excited about this interview because you know that I did a 2-year apprenticeship under a master gunsmith, and so I'm getting my feet wet with that. And to have somebody here that's been doing it for a long time is a real honor. So, Dave, thanks for coming on and agreeing to do this video.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We have some examples of his work, but before we go into the details of that and stuff, give us a little bit about your background.
Well, pretty simple, really. I went to high school, and I went through a machining program in high school, graduated, went to 4 years of apprenticeship school, and worked in the machining industry for about 25 years, and was a competitive shooter, sent a gun out to have some work done to it, and got it back, and it was messed up worse than it was when I sent it out, so I decided, you know what, I can do this myself. Started working on my own guns, and it just slowly progressed into more and more, and I started my business in 1999.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you were just inducted into
the American Pistol Smiths Guild last January.
Awesome.
Great honor. Thank you very much. It was kind of a process. It took about a year. Had to build 2 guns, submit the guns for testing, accuracy testing, reliability, fit, function, you name it. And I went out last year in January to Vegas and was inducted. It was pretty awesome.
Awesome, man. Well, congrats on that. While we're talking about your history and stuff, let's take a look at this and tell us a little bit about this quote-unquote guinea pig gun.
Well, this was one of the guns that I actually shot when I was shooting competition. And when I started performing work on things, I would never do anything to a customer gun that I didn't do to my own first. So this gun was the guinea pig. It got hand checkered, first Bomar installation, first magwell installation, grip safety, sights, you name it. First barrel. I mean, the gun has right now about 46,000 rounds through it.
And yeah, you were rattling them back and forth, and I bet that thing just works like a...
Yep, she rattles just like an old GI.
That's really cool. And did you know when you bought the gun, is that the original gun that you sent out for work and got back and wasn't happy with?
No, this one was not the original one that I sent out. Actually, that was a pair ordinance, and it's long gone. I don't even own it anymore. So.
Cool. And now, did you know that you were going to get into competitive shooting when you were like messing with this gun, or?
No. I started shooting, and I started seeing a need for things that needed to be done to the guns. This was a box stock gun when I bought it. Had a lot of issues when I first bought it. And I started tweaking and learning, and this is what you see at the end.
Awesome.
Pretty rough looking girl, but she's got a lot of history.
Absolutely, man. Well, that's awesome to see kind of the lineage and the progression. You're going to see some close-ups of the progression from the beginning, from the guinea pig gun to some guns that were actually featured in American Handgunner?
Combat handguns.
Combat handguns, which I think is really cool. But you mentioned something that, and this is, I guess, something that, you hear a lot of information on the internet, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on a couple different things, frequent buzzwords and stuff. Can you get a decent out-of-the-box 1911 without getting work done?
Sure. Springfield Armory still makes a very quality gun. Ruger's not bad. Remington's not bad. They do need a little bit of work right out of the box, but they're not terrible. Probably your best bang for the buck right now is Dan Wesson, believe it or not.
That's what I said in the other video. They're awesome, right?
Yeah, I mean, in that $1,500 to $1,000 range, they're using great quality components. They're doing a lot of hand fitting. It's pretty hard to beat that for the money.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. A lot of them came into the shop, and I was just super impressed in the beginning. Like, I think there's the first... One of my friends handed me one at the shop, and I picked it up, and I was just like, didn't look at whose gun it was. And I was like, damn, this is nice. And then I saw Dan Wesson, and I had heard, a little bit through the grapevine that they were really good guns. But so that's cool. But what would you recommend for someone that's, like, let's say they go out and they get a Springfield Armory or a Remington or something. What are some of the things that you'd recommend they do first to the gun, given that they're happy with the sights and stuff like that?
In all honesty, shoot it.
Okay.
Take it out and shoot it. If it works, great. If it shoots as accurately as you need it to shoot, that's awesome. If you're happy with everything about the gun. I mean, I get questions all the time. Guys will come to me and they'll say, what makes your custom-built $3,000 gun better than a $1,200 Kimber? And the short answer is, if everything you want is on that $1,200 Kimber, then you're never going to buy a custom gun from me.
Right.
The advantage to doing a custom gun is you're going to get 100% somebody standing behind it for as long as I'm alive.
Right.
And you're going to get exactly what you want. You want a checkering pattern, you want certain sights, you want certain barrel, everything. You're going to get just exactly what you want.
Right. And you've also got someone that, one gunsmith, going through the entire gun, making sure, and these guns, if one thing, you modify one thing, sometimes you got to modify another thing, and it becomes that, there are like certain like regular suspect culprits that one thing leads to another, but, getting one guy who really cares, who's putting his name behind a product and who is accountable, is a tremendous thing, and like, you get a pride of ownership from something like this that would never come from something right out of the box.
Right, absolutely.
And that brings me to another question. I'd like to get your thoughts, especially because you've got a machining background and whatnot, and a gunsmith. What's your thoughts on metal injection molded parts, or MIM parts?
Well, they're not as good as a machine part. Mm-hmm. We have seen a lot of failures. But then again, we've also seen a lot of guns that'll go thousands and thousands of rounds without failure.
Right.
It's just like anything else. You can buy a carburetor for your car, and you can buy 100 carburetors, and you're going to have that one bad one come out. And once that one bad one comes out, they're all bad.
Right.
And I won't install MIM parts simply for that reason. Because when this gun goes out the door to my customer, anything that fails on it is going to come back to me. And it doesn't matter if I made the part or not, it's going to come back.
Absolutely.
So I don't use MIM parts simply because I don't want them to fail. A lot of the guns that I build are for guys that are working, cops, some military guys. These guns have to go bang every time for thousands and thousands of rounds. I don't have enough faith in MIM parts to do it.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. Let me see here. So we got your history. You kind of talked a little bit about recommended manufacturers, which I really think is great, and I value that. I definitely want to talk about too the one that was featured. But what are some of the biggest misconceptions, would you say? And this is a broad, general, left field question. But what's some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about 1911s?
Well, a lot of the misconceptions that come from, a lot of guys say, I would never carry a 1911 because it's unreliable. Well, first of all, let's take it into perspective. We're dealing with a 100-year-old design, a little over 100 years. It's a mechanical instrument. And what I tell people all the time, I should be able to shoot, 5,000 rounds through this gun without cleaning it. Why? Why do you need to do that? Really? I mean, do you drive your car 50,000 miles without changing the oil? No. Well, some people may, but any rational person wouldn't do that. You do not want to do that, simply because it's a mechanical instrument. It's a machine. It needs to be maintained, just like anything else. As good a gun as Glock is, they're not perfect.
Right.
They fail. Parts break. I see them in my shop on a regular basis. Nothing wrong with that, but it usually comes from not maintaining the gun properly. I always tell people the 1911 has kind of become a social firearm, a barbecue gun, a sexy gun, because, a customer of mine was getting married down in Texas, and he was going to carry a gun at his wedding. So we rushed a beautiful blued 1911 through just so he could wear it to his wedding, so he wouldn't have to wear his Glock.
That's a good story.
They're both functional firearms. They both do what they're intended to do. You just don't necessarily want to shoot at thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds without maintenance. It's a 100-year-old design. Okay. End of the day.
Well, very fair. Appreciate your thoughts on that. Let's take a look and talk a little bit about this, and we'll do some close-ups here in a second, but this one that says Peaceful Warrior on the side, which was featured, and tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this gun was featured in the March 2009 issue of Combat Handguns. And for the life of me, I apologize, I can't remember the name of the author for the article at this moment, but I sent him 3 different pictures of 3 different guns and let him choose which one he wanted to do the article on. He did this one because, in 2009, 9mm 1911s were kind of a rarity. We weren't seeing a lot of them. And he wanted to know what the story was behind Peaceful Warrior and the Latin that I have written on the other side. The Latin, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce it because I'll butcher it up, but in short term it means freedom, duty, honor. Peaceful warrior is kind of describing myself because I'm not military, I'm not law enforcement, but I'm that guy that if I ever have to fight, I'm going to fight. Peaceful warrior, meaning I'm going to be at peace forever. If I have to fight, I will. That's kind of how the lineage came about. Once he saw that, he wanted an explanation. He wanted to know what it was about. He took the gun. He had it about 3 months, ran it through accuracy testing, reliability testing, really shot it a lot, wrote a fantastic article about it, and sent it back.
You know, that I love that peaceful warrior phrase, and I think that's kind of a lifestyle type thing. Actually, it registers with me a lot because I used to study Tang Soo Do under a guy named Master Andy Carr at Police Athletic League of Upper Darby when it was still open. And one of the things we talk about is Pyong An Bushido, which is the peaceful, confident way of the warrior. And the first word being peaceful. You know, like we don't want to use these tools. We don't want to use our clinch picks and our shivs and whatever else, run people over with cars. But if we are put into that position where we need to, well, that's where the warrior comes in.
Correct.
You know, so really cool, man. Any last thought? Well, and we, you know, while we got you on camera, because I just think that this is just like absolutely the coolest thing.
Well, funny story. This gun was built last year by me, and a friend of mine who has now since passed always wanted to hunt deer with a 10mm handgun here in the state of Ohio. They just recently legalized it that we could use the 10mm caliber. The legal requirement says I have to have a 6-inch barrel. So I thought to myself, in memory of my past friend, I'm going to build a 6-inch 10mm and I'm going to hunt deer with it. So this is what the end result was. And the reason the gun is all black is that was his favorite color. So we called it Back in Black. Cool. And this is my Ohio deer hunting 10mm.
Question: why go with the 6-inch barrel rather than the 6-inch full-length slide? Or was that a choice, or just like a?
To be honest, I had the slide.
And that's always the best.
Yeah, I already had it.
You had.
I didn't have to buy another one.
Cool. Any last thoughts that you'd like to? You get the last word, so.
Well, in all honesty, if I can ever be of any assistance, I'm here at the Alliance Police Training Center right now. I'm born and raised here in Alliance. Joe Wire and I are lifelong friends. If you ever come to Alliance and you have a mechanical issue with any of your firearms, Joe will give you my contact information. I make various trips out here during classes to take care of student problems, and I'm here for you.
Awesome. Well, that's a great note to end on, and really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate you, you know, showing us some of the history and lineage of the guns. And you know, when you're done with that, I'll take it.
Okay. All right.
All right.
We can work something out.
Well, thanks a lot, Dave. And I'm Jeff from Practically Tactical. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.